Is WVU erasing Bob Huggins' legacy right off the map, or are they just simply ignoring it? We're going to talk about that in this episode of Couz's Corner and how there's not any mention in the media about this Bob Huggins documentary that's coming up. But among the fan base, there's a lot of talk about it. There's also a lot of talk about honoring Bob Huggins. Should the Mountaineers do that? Should WVU do that? Will they do that? I'm here to tell you I don't think they will anytime soon, and I'm going to explain why. We're also going to talk about a football coach leaving the West Virginia program, going to another school. We're going to talk about the potential impact of that, and then we'll talk about a little bit of an update about the Hope Coliseum, what's going on there, and then we may touch on a little bit of WVU hoops as well in this live edition of Couz's Corner. Thank you for dropping in, joining the show. I appreciate the support. Remind you to please hit the thumbs up button below the video. Whether you're watching it live or on the playback, it really helps out the channel, really helps it grow, and it's absolutely free to do it. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I just hit 10,400 subscribers. I want to thank each of you who have subbed already. So let's go ahead and dive right into the content. Bob Huggins. I've been wanting to talk about this for a few days, but just hadn't had a chance to. But he's popped up in the news again over the last week or so. It's kind of old news at this point, but there is a documentary that's coming out about Bob Huggins. You've heard other content creators talk about it. You know, I think Paul had a couple former Mountaineer players on his show, or a former Mountaineer player and a former Cincinnati player to talk about it. There's been some stuff shared about it on social media. Pretty exciting stuff. But what I found intriguing is that not one member of the West Virginia media, outside of maybe Skylar Callahan, I think he may have talked about it over at West Virginia on SI, but I've not seen anyone that is credentialed media at WVU. Skylar lives in another state, so he's not credentialed at WVU, though his site probably is. But, I've not seen anyone from 24/7 or Rivals or WV Metro News or any of those outlets talk about it. And I find that a little odd. I also, I don't necessarily find this odd, but you've also heard talk about, hey, it's time for West Virginia, or is it time for West Virginia to honor Bob Huggins? You've heard a lot of Twitter accounts talk about it. Skylar talked about it on his show. He thinks it's time. And again, there's been a lot of Twitter accounts talking about it. And, and a lot of this came about because Huggins brought West Virginia up in his annual fish fry. He actually had positive comments to say about the program and about Ross Hodge, those types of things. So it got fans talking about this. Hey, is it time to honor the legend? Many think it is. And I'm going to talk first from a fan's perspective, and then I'll give you the school's perspective on this, okay? Because I think they might be in conflict a little bit. From the fan's perspective, and this is kind of where I sit as a fan, I would love to see it happen. I think Bob Huggins did so much for that university, so much for that basketball program, he's done so much for the state of West Virginia as a whole. I think any of the stuff he did, yes, the way it ended, it was terrible. He made a huge mistake. And I'm not saying that West Virginia made a bad decision to move on from him. But I do think that what he did is all the good he did overrides the mistakes he made, in my opinion. So that's why, as a fan, I would love to see Bob Huggins honored. I would love to see it happen sooner rather than later. While his health is still good, while he's still around to enjoy it. I just think it would be great. Bob Huggins has been seen at various locations. He's been seen at a Marshall game recently. He was at an Akron game, and he got the public address announcer there, mentioned his name. He stood up, waved to the crowd. They gave him a rousing ovation. And I thought it was pretty cool. But, the difference there, Huggins actually coached at Akron, so that's to be expected. But they remember him fondly there. He was there before he went to Cincinnati. And then, again, the Marshall thing caused a little bit of a controversy. I don't think it's a big deal. He's retired now. He's going around supporting different programs, probably traveling the state, just watching basketball, talking to different people, probably hanging out with friends, those types of things. No big deal to me. Some people thought it was a big deal. Anyway, Now from a fan's perspective, I think Bob Huggins needs to be honored. I think they need to have a Bob Huggins night. Look, some people are talking about putting a statue out front. Yes, eventually, but right now, I think just honoring the guy at a game would be sufficient for me, at least right now, just to let bygones be bygones, that type of thing. The statue and all that, I'm not sure that's a good idea just yet. But here's why. Let me give you the school's perspective. Try to put myself in their shoes. Number one, this is still somewhat fresh. I mean, this only happened, 2.5 years ago that he got that DUI, sent the program into a tailspin. They're now on their fourth coach in 4 years. Second complete rebuild. Actually, third, really, if you count the Eilert year. Third straight complete rebuild. The program's been in a tough spot. And, Ren Baker was the AD during all that. So he lived it. He felt it. He knows the pain of it. So I don't know what Ren's personal feelings are about the situation, and we probably never will know, because he's going to always take the school side and going to say the right thing and politically correct thing in this situation. But it's still fairly new, right? And we also don't know, and not even just take the DUI out of it, the way it ended, with lawyers getting involved, Huggins trying to demand his job back, those types of things. It just did not end. It did not end well. And I just think it may take some time for Ren Baker. And I know Michael Benson was not president at the time, but you got to remember, there are people in the board of governors who were probably there when all this went down. They probably need some time to get over it. They probably need some time to put it behind them. I'm sure there were a lot of them that probably weren't happy about the whole situation. So because of that, I think we need to, for those who may disagree with the university, we need to understand where they're coming from on this. It's a very, very tough spot for them to be in, because you've got a man who's beloved by most of the fans, who did great things at West Virginia, who's a living legend, and who still lives in the state, in Morgantown. But yet the way he ended it, it was a black eye on the university, and it's a black eye that may take a long time to heal. Again, not sure when. Ren Baker could be over it yesterday. I don't know his opinion, but again, he's not the final decision maker on a lot of these things. You've got the board of governors that has to chime in, and again, I know Michael Benson wasn't there, but he may not think it's a good idea based on the time frame and all. But again, a lot of the board of governors, I'm sure, probably have a bad taste in their mouth from that whole situation. And then let's talk about donors. Now, there are some donors who are on Bob Huggins' side in this, is my understanding, but there are also some who were not. And one of the ones who was not, let's talk about Ken Kendrick for just a minute. Ken Kendrick, the wealthiest donor who gives to WVU, Princeton High School alum, managing partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, the only billionaire who is a donor to WVU athletics, is, to my understanding, to my knowledge. He went on Hoppy Kercheval's show back, when after it all went down, they went through the season and they made the decision to move on from Josh Eilert and do a national search. Ken Kendrick went on Hoppy Kercheval's show the next day and gave his opinion on Bob Huggins, and it was not a good one. I mean, he used words like he's I'm paraphrasing, but he used words like he should be in the Hall of Shame, not the Hall of Fame, and that WVU athletics was basically done with Bob Huggins. Those were two of the comments he made. And he said if Huggins had worked for him, he would have fired Huggins after the, slurs he made, the homophobic slurs he made on the radio. He would not even have had him around long enough to get the DUI situation. So he was out. I think he was out on Bob Huggins even before all that happened. He felt like the school was too easy on him. So you know how he feels about Ken. If you don't remember that interview, go check it out. You can find it. Just Google Ken Kendrick or Hoppy Kercheval Ken Kendrick or Metro News Ken Kendrick, something like that. You can find it. Right now it's been reported by 24/7 Sports and others that Ken Kendrick is not giving at the level that he once was to WVU Sports. Now, we don't know the reasons behind it. I have some speculation that I'm not going to get into because it's just speculation and rumor. But he's not giving at the level that he was at one time giving. So if West Virginia wants to get Rick or Ken Kendrick back in the fold, get him donating again, do you think he would? How do you think he would feel about them honoring Bob Huggins or doing something for Bob Huggins? I don't think it would go over well with him, and you might lose him for for even a longer term if that happens. And I don't think they can risk that right now, especially in today's landscape where cash is king and they need as much revenue as they can get, as much money donated as they can get. I just don't think it's a good idea. So, therefore, I think it'll be a long time before we ever see WVU honoring Bob Huggins. Unfortunately, I know as fans that might break our hearts a little bit, but that's just where we are, unfortunately. And I kind of get it. Even though I don't like it from the school's perspective, I understand it. But I do find it odd that nobody in the media is covering this documentary. It'll be interesting to see whether or not, once it does actually come out, does anybody in and around WVU circles that are credentialed media, do any of them talk about it? That's going to be interesting to see because they might have been given a gag order not to bring up Bob Huggins' name. And if that's the case, it's hard to blame them. It's their job, right? It's their livelihood is being in those meetings and being credentialed and hearing what the coaches say. That's how they make their living. So I would not fault them at all. I know it gets frustrating sometimes because us fans want them to ask tough questions. But when your livelihood depends on you following the instructions of the SID, the athletic department, you have to do that. So anyway, I just find it interesting, and there's got to be a reason nobody's talking about Bob Huggins outside of a handful of people and those of us in the what I'll call non-traditional media space. And again, Skylar Callahan, kudos to him for having the guts to talk about it. And again, apologize for the dead space. I will, before I put this up on the pre-recorded side, I will go back and edit that section out. But for those of you live, I apologize. Let's jump in and grab some comments from some VIP members here, and then we'll get over to talk some other topics. Daniel Gigax is in the house. Thank you, Daniel. He says, who knows, it would work, and a lot of non-performing schools on both sides. Sorry, I started. Kenny Evans has lots of talk on Big 12 ACC merger. What's your thoughts and who's in? That's what Daniel Gigax was responding to when he said, who knows how it would work, and a lot of non-performing schools on both sides. Kenny, my opinion is I don't see it happening. If that happens, you will again, I don't think it would be the entirety of the two leagues, even though I would not be opposed to that. I just don't know that it would work I don't know that the TV networks would want it, to be frank. As far as who's in, I think it's going to depend. What happens with UNC? My opinion is I think UNC is going to end up defecting to either the SEC or the Big Ten. I think you could see Miami defect to either the SEC or the Big Ten, maybe even Virginia, maybe even Clemson and Florida State. I'm not sure. But without a couple of those big ACC brands, I'm not sure that it works anyway. If you if you can keep Clemson and Florida State in the mix and they don't go to the Big Ten or the SEC, then I think you can make it work. And they could be sort of the leaders of this new conference potentially. But I think it would be sort of a best of the rest type situation. Would West Virginia be in it? I would like to think they would, but man, there's no guarantees. There's absolutely no guarantees. It would depend on what do they put importance on? Do they put importance on brand value? Do they put importance on history, on fan bases, on the passion of your fan base? Do they put importance on geography? Or are they going to put most of the importance on academic standing? Are they going to put most of the importance on, the size of your state and the size of your television markets? If they're going to put the importance on those things, I think West Virginia could potentially get left out. But if they base it on other situations like rivalries, maybe, or if they're wanting to keep teams on the Eastern U.S., I don't know. It's going to depend a lot on what the criteria is. But I would be really, really afraid that West Virginia may not make it in. I hate to be the pessimist, but that's just how my kind of the side I lean to. Daniel Gigax agrees it would have to be a new conference, and that would be difficult to start. I don't know that it would be too difficult. I mean, I think you could there are enough streaming platforms out there or networks who want to be heavily involved in college sports right now. potentially that I think you could find somebody to take it on. And then if you add private equity or private capital in, I think you could definitely make it work. Kenny Evans says, what games this year will be stripe the stadium and coal rush? Man, it's hard to tell. It's too early. Heck, I hadn't even thought that far ahead, brother. Great question, though. Sorry about losing audio again, y'all. Apologize. Curtis D316 says, Hoppy is a joke. I can't stand him. The other WVU Fan 13 says, with 3 coaches in 3 years and complete roster turnover, I think it respect to Ross to get control on the program before honoring Huggins. I say next year or year after. That's fair. And another he poses another question, does WVU Fan 13 in the YouTube chat room. He says, is Huggins up for it? And that's another thing. It takes 2 to tango, as they say. Does Bob Huggins even want to be honored by WVU right now? Is he still pissed off at him, for lack of a better word? How does he feel about that? Ren Baker's the one who probably had to do, he had to have all those discussions with. How does he feel about Ren? How does Ren, how's that relationship? We just don't know the answers to any of those questions right now. And Bob Huggins he might still be a little bit somewhat bitter about the whole situation right now and may not want to be honored. Who knows? That's a great point to raise there, WVU Fan 13. I appreciate you bringing that up. All right. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, I don't have it on the topics on tap, but I think we need to talk about it. And that is West Virginia Mountaineer hoops. I didn't do a post-game show because I didn't get to watch the game live. I had other plans. I watched it back the next day, thanks to WVU RX Man. I watched it on YouTube. But by the time I got to watch it, there had been other shows done on it, and I felt like what I said would have just been repetitive. So I just didn't do a show. Just didn't feel like I was going to be able to. I didn't feel like I brought anything new to the table, so I didn't do one. But right now, where we sit today, West Virginia getting ready to go into this game with Utah. They have 6 games left. They could realistically, it is possible to go 6-0 down the stretch. If they do that, that gets them to 22 wins. You would probably add at least 1 or 2 more quad 1 wins to under your belt. I don't see how in the world you don't get in. But let's remember, last year, West Virginia had 6 quad 1 wins last year. But the difference between this year and last year, if that theoretical scenario happens, the difference would be last year West Virginia was faltering down the stretch. Whereas this year, if that happens, West Virginia would be hot down the stretch, and that means a lot, I think, in the tournament committee's eyes. How good are you playing right now? And not only that, last year they went in with 19. Even though they had the 6 quad 1 wins, they only had 19 wins total. This year, if that happened, they would go in at 22 wins and 5 or 6 quad 1 wins. So I still would like their chances a little better. Now, again, a lot of that has to do with what the teams around them do as well. We all know that. And we all know that last year's team should have gotten in. There was almost every single analyst in the world says they should have gotten in. Almost anybody that knows anything about how the rankings work says they should have got in. The only people who said they shouldn't have got in was the daggum committee. And we all know what happened there. There's no need to rehash it. But that's if they go 6-0 down the stretch. I personally, it's possible they do that. Then they have the ability to do that. They have 3 road games and 3 home games. The 3 road games are against Oklahoma State, TCU, and Kansas State. Those are the 3. All 3 of those games are winnable. They're all going to be challenging. You've got Kansas State, who's now going to have an interim coach. Sometimes, how often do we see players respond really well to interim coaches? It happens a lot. He might get that team winning games again. You also have, the Oklahoma State and TCU are sitting right there with West Virginia at similar records, similar, not too far from each other in the rankings and whatnot, as far as net rankings and all those things. Those are going to be really tough games, and both of those games are at the other team's gym. So I don't expect West Virginia to win both of those games. If they can split that road trip between TCU and Oklahoma State, I think that's a good thing. Then your home games are against this coming Wednesday against Utah. You also have a home game against BYU, which would be a big quad 1 win, and you finish the season at home against UCF. So you have an opportunity to get a few more quad 1 wins under your belt. I'm not sure where those other games stand. I think Utah's a quad 3 game, I believe. They definitely need to have to win that one. You cannot drop this game. And I don't think they will. I think the guys are mature enough to handle it. But it does make me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. But I still think out of the last 6 games, they end up finishing 4-2. I said I thought they'd win 5 of their last 7. I still think they do that. That would put them with right at the 20-win mark. And it would have them with 11 wins in the Big 12. Man, it would be really tough to keep them out. But because of their non-conference schedule and the fact they didn't win any quad 1 non-conference games, it makes me extremely nervous. I hate to say it, but I just don't trust the committee to put West Virginia in the field with 20 wins. I think you need to get to that 21 or 22 win mark, and maybe even make a little bit of a run in the Big 12 tournament. Now, if you win 20 and make it to the finals of the Big 12 tournament or something, I think that changes the game. But I don't foresee that happening either. But man, if they can get to 21 or 22 wins, playing good ball down the stretch, I think they got a legitimate chance. But I don't know that there's anything this team can do to make me feel 100% confident going into Selection Sunday, except maybe winning out and maybe winning their first game or 2 in the Big 12 tournament. Outside of that, man, I just don't trust the committee to put them in. Last year burnt me. Last year now has me feeling like they're going to get screwed every single year. I can't help it. That's just the way I feel. And speaking of that, the Big 12 tournament, I saw with Jason Shear, who covers Arizona at 24/7 Sports, he put up the Big 12 bracket today. West Virginia would be the 6th seed and would have a first-round bye in the Big 12 tournament. So they would be sitting in a pretty good spot right now were they to win, were the Big 12 to end with today's standings. But, again, they might have a chance to improve themselves even more with the games they have coming up on their schedule. So that's a little bit that's my thoughts on the West Virginia basketball program. Let's go ahead and jump over now to the second topic you see on the screen, which is WVU assistant football coach leaving. And this is a coach who has yet to even coach a game, coach a practice for that matter, official practice. We're talking about Larry Knight. Larry Knight is the edge coach and pass rush specialist at West Virginia. He replaced Jeff Castile, who retired as Bandits coach. And he's leaving already. According to report, nothing official has come out from Georgia or Knight himself, but On3, West Virginia on SI, and a bunch of others have reported that Kirby Smart is looking to hire him away from the Mountaineers. Now, when I first heard this news, I thought, man, this sucks. You've got a guy who don't even want to be here. He's going to leave before he even coaches a game, before he even gives it a chance. He's chasing a dollar. But then I got to realizing as I started doing, looking back at the article I wrote about him over at the website, WVSportsChat.com and whatnot, I thought, you know what? Wait a minute, this guy's from Georgia. So he's getting to go home. You get to go home, and in addition to that, you make more money and get to coach in the SEC, which is perceived to be a much better league. It'd be hard to pass that up, man. It'd be hard to pass it up. But, man, as a West Virginia fan, I'm sitting there going, my gosh, man, this sucks. I was really high on this guy. He's apparently a very, very good recruiter from everything I've read on him. He's been a recruiting coordinator at multiple stops. He's been at Temple. He's been at Georgia Tech. He spent his last year at Arkansas State. He's done a little bit of stuff in the NFL. Very good coach, in my opinion. I thought it was a solid hire for Coach Rod and Zach Alley and that West Virginia team. But unfortunately, he looks like he's going to be moving to Georgia and the SEC. And I was also concerned because West Virginia here, they are getting ready. Spring ball's less than 3 weeks away, y'all. It starts March 8th. And I'm like, West Virginia's got to go out and find an assistant coach 3 weeks before spring ball starts? That's insane. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? If a West Virginia coach can leave and go to Georgia right now, then why can't West Virginia go out and find themselves another good – there are a lot of good coaches out there. They can go to the G6 ranks and find themselves a really good defensive ends coach or bandits coach or edge rusher coach, whatever. And, Zach Alley, Rich Rod both have coached with many, many coaches around the country. They both have a lot of connections. I'm sure they know a lot of good coaches. So I have no doubt that they'll find a good coach. And somebody else pointed out to me on X today, and I thought it was a very good point. The fact that they were able to go get a coach like Larry Knight, who Georgia wants, what's that tell you? That they're doing a really good job identifying talented and good coaches. If Georgia wants your coach, then you probably hired a pretty good coach, right? Who's to say they can't do that again? So I'm not in panic mode about it. I think they'll find someone to replace him. And heck, they got a guy on the staff right now, Coach Warwick, who's an assistant, just a defensive assistant. Most of his experience is coaching middle linebackers, which is what Zach Alley's been doing. But heck, who knows? Maybe and Coach Warwick has been recruiting lead recruiter on a lot of guys. I've seen him posting a lot of recruiting photos on X. So maybe you put Coach Warwick over the inside backers, and Zach Alley goes and takes over the bandits and the outside linebackers. Give Coach Warwick a bump in pay, give him a promotion, put him over the middle linebacker spot. He's coached with Coach Alley at multiple stops. He was with him at Clemson for a while. He's now with him at West Virginia. He did coach at Jacksonville State at one time, not while Rich Rod or Coach Alley were there, but he has coached at Jacksonville State. He's been to several places, and he's coached linebackers at several places. Put him over your linebackers if you trust him. Alley can just oversee the bandit room or the outside linebacker room potentially. Just thinking outside the box, but that way you keep everything internal. You might even, you can give Coach Warwick a bump in pay, but yet you may still not have to pay him as much as you would pay to hire a new guy from the outside because you're already paying Coach Warwick something. You just bump him up a couple $100,000 a year potentially, and you don't have to go out and hire a new coach. It's one less person you have on the payroll, one less person the school's paying benefits to. As a West Virginia taxpayer, I would appreciate it. But no, in all seriousness, I don't think it would be a bad strategy if they did that. Now, I don't know much about Coach Warwick, but apparently Coach Alley trusts him. Apparently Coach Rod trusts him. And like I said, he's been recruiting a ton of these guys that they're after right now. So I have a feeling he's been a key part of this thing. And again, even if they do go hire somebody else from the outside world, I have faith that they'll find the right guy. So even though Coach Knight might be leaving West Virginia, it's not time to panic. He is going back to his home state, and he is probably going to be making a lot more money. And, hey, West Virginia's likely going to get a buyout. I mean, he just officially became the coach in January. So I'm sure there's a buyout there. I think it's 20. I think I saw where it was 25% of a salary maybe. It's a lot of money you can go out and pay for potentially a player. Or, again, maybe you just put it towards hiring a new coach, whatever the case may be. You got some money lying around that you can use for whatever. All right. Let's get back to the chat room here, and then we'll go back and cover our last topic of the day. Kenny Evans, does any news on tech transfer and about LSU receiver that's injured? I have not heard any news on any tech transfer. Are you referring to the Virginia Tech transfer? I have not heard any news about that. I have been trying to follow that myself. Haven't heard anything. And as far as LSU receiver Teron Francis, for those of you who may not know, he was seen. I think he posted a photo on social media of himself on one of those scooters that people use when they have a foot injury. So that doesn't look good. Again, we don't know anything about it, whether it's a serious injury. It is February, so it might be something minor, and he might be fine by the time season rolls around. Who knows? We don't know anything, but I have not heard a word, Kenny Evans, but thank you for the question, my brother. Luke Armercost in the house. He says there is no denying that last year was a complete hose job, especially with the UNC scam. Talking about the NCAA tournament, no doubt about it. Luke Armercost talking about Ross Hodge says he likes the transparency. Maybe it was just me, but it felt like DeVries mumbled through pressers and seemed lost in some of them. Yeah, he wasn't the greatest as far as being in front of the media and whatnot. I think a lot of it was I thought it was just a personality thing. I did meet Coach DeVries at the coach's caravan. He seemed in those environments, he was great. Like he seemed comfortable. He was cracking jokes, had the whole panel laughing and cracking up. He seemed like he'd been there for forever. Like he was totally different in that environment than what you saw him when he was in front of the media. I found that to be very intriguing, to be honest with you. But that is a donor event, and those guys are. I don't want to say they're putting on a show. They're not really putting on a show, but they're probably a little bit more. They're a little bit less guarded, so to speak. Even though there are cameras in the room, like me, sometimes filming the thing. But I did that a couple years ago. And I could tell it made them feel uncomfortable, so I didn't do it again. I was there as a fan, more so than anything. But anyway, back to the story at hand, the question at hand. But he did mumble through a lot of pressers, and it seemed like you really weren't getting any information. Ross is really good about giving you information without giving away too much information, and I like that about him. It's a great point. BYU lost one of their better players due to injury, Curtis. Right. Richie Saunders is out for the year. Now, I hate that for the young man. I hate to see anybody go down with an injury like that. I don't love it. Even though it could benefit West Virginia, I don't love it. I want to remind you that the old Hoops from the Hills channel that I used to have, I still have it, but we have rebranded it to the WV Sports Chat channel now. It's part of our WV Sports Chat coverage. You can also find written content over at WVSportsChat.com. Jonathan Martin and I, we have our Golden Blue Breakdown show over there once a week now. Jersey Ear is now hosting a show over at WVSportsChat.com. So go check it out. It actually aired yesterday on Monday. He and a co-host talked about our baseball sweep over the weekend of Georgia Southern. So I recommend you go check that out. It's a very in-depth conversation about that series. And this week, Jonathan and I will be talking about we're going to be recording probably on Thursday this week, so that we can talk about the West Virginia men's basketball game coming up against Utah. And of course, we're hoping to maybe even throw a little baseball in there as well. But go to WV Sports Chat YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already. And a reminder that Couz call-in show is back. It's the off season, so we have a little bit more time to do some of that stuff. Call or text. I did find out you can text this number, 304-712-9347. Leave your name, where you're calling or texting from. Leave a message, and I'll do my best to respond to your message on a show. If you're speaking and calling in, please make sure to speak clearly so that I can hear your question and or comment. Let's go ahead and jump back over to the comments here. Baseball is already awesome, says Curtis D. Luke Armacall says, good to know about DeVries. You are probably right about the personality thing. Yeah, I thought so. But again, I do not like how he handled leaving West Virginia. I thought it was a shady move. I thought it was wrong the way he did the players. And I still don't trust the guy or like the guy. But in that one individual setting, he seemed like he was pretty cool. But again, he could have been putting on a show for the donors. I don't know. Kenny Evans says, is RR going to do a presser about recruits brought in? He did a National Signing Day presser. I don't know that they do them about transfers. They start spring ball on March 8th. My guess is they will do a press conference before spring practice starts, sometime that week, maybe even the day of. I'm not sure. I will venture to guess they will probably do a press conference that week of spring practice, but I have not seen any official announcements on that. WVU Fan 13 feels like the team's overall record would be 20-11 to 22-9. Big 12 record of 11-7 to 13-5. He believes they're in. I hope you're right, man, because I feel comfortable they'll get to that 20-11 mark. That's kind of where that's kind of where I'm thinking. I feel like they'll beat Utah. I feel like they'll split the TCU Oklahoma State games. I think they come home and beat BYU at home. I don't know. Maybe they lose to BYU at home. Split the TCU Oklahoma State series, beat Utah, beat Kansas State, and then beat UCF at home to close out the season. That's kind of how I see it happening. So the two losses are either Oklahoma State and TCU, one of those two, and then BYU, and then they win the rest. But that puts them at that 20-win mark, man. That makes me nervous. I'm worried they don't get in. at that number. A lot of it will have to do with how many auto bids get taken away and what the teams around them do. But I think they will be very, 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 very close. Like an 8 seed, one of the last teams in, maybe even 11 or 12 play-in game or something like that. If they finish 20-11, that's kind of my take on it. Yeah, Richie Saunders' BYU career is over. He is a senior because I think he actually put out a statement that he hated that his career had to end that way. All right. Let's go ahead and jump over and talk about the last topic. James Buchanan chiming in. He says, he agrees with WVU Fan 13 with the overall record. I think we will miss the NCAA tournament, but get an invite to the NIT. Thanks for chiming in, brother. All right, this last topic, the Hope Coliseum. WVU put out an announcement today on Twitter and put out a press release about a brand new upgrade they're going to be doing to the WVU Coliseum, the Hope Coliseum, I should say. They're going to be adding some premium seating. I'm trying to pull up the article now to read it. And I was going to try to post a picture, but it seems like anything I try to share never works. So anyway, it says premium seating options will debut at Hope Coliseum in time for the 2026-2027 season, giving a new look to portions of the lower level in the venerable arena. I'm not sure what that means, to be honest with you. The new premium seating options are designed to deliver an upgraded game day experience, bringing a higher level of comfort, convenience, and luxury to the building that will be entering its 56th year of operation on West Virginia University's Evansdale campus. The addition of loge seating will feature in-game food and drink wait service, cushioned swivel chairs, refrigerators, televisions, and special cabinetry. Ledge seating contains in-game food and drink wait service, cushioned swivel chairs, and televisions. The two options are designed to take the game day excitement and enjoyment to a new level. Additionally, the loge suites with upscale amenities will also be added to complete the premium space renovations for next season. Here's what Ren Baker had to say about it. We have been discussing and researching these premium options for some time, and they will be a valuable upgrade to Hope Coliseum. You will find premium seating like this in all newer arenas, and this gives us a chance to modernize parts of the seating area while upgrading the viewing experience. We have a great home court advantage, but our fans have asked for additional premium seating options to go along with our courtside seats on the floor. Loge and ledge seating is the logical next step, and the feedback from prospective buyers has been very positive, end quote. These types of seats can be purchased up to a maximum of 4 season tickets. You have to meet a certain level of philanthropic giving of at least $50,000 or more to even be considered to buy these. So no, Couz will not be buying any of these seats. It's way above my pay grade. But if you can, go for it, man. Go for it. I think I'm not going to read the rest of it, but I think it's a great idea. And it's my understanding, based on doing some more research and some articles that were written about this a few months ago, this is going to go where right now these are going to go pretty close, maybe not exactly in the location, but pretty close to where the student seating is today. And the student section is actually going to be moved to behind one of the baskets, like you see most student seating. They're not only is this a way, Ren Baker talked about fans asking for it, but this is, I think it's a great idea to move the student seating behind the basket. I think that's the right move. But it's also a way to bring in what? More revenue. These premium seating options are going to cost a lot more. They might have to take out some regular seats to do this. But let's face it, the Coliseum typically doesn't sell out anyway. They usually sell what? 12? They sell between 12 and 13,000 seats typically for any game that's not pit. They can, if you can, so you don't really need all 14,000 seats in that Coliseum. You can take a few of them out, put in these premium seats, charge a lot more for those premium seats, and you just made a lot more money. And you might even add a few more season ticket holders. Who knows? And in the process, you're moving your student section over to another area where they can be a little bit more disruptive. The students will be closer together. I like these moves that are being made by Ren Baker, by the West Virginia University Athletic Department, by the basketball program. I think this is a great move. This is a move West Virginia should have probably made years ago, to be honest with you. But for West Virginia's in the past, they've just been slow to move on some of these things. Some of it may have been lack of resources, lack of funding, whatever. But now they're finally doing it. I think it's a great move. It'll just be another way for them to bring in more revenue. It won't be from me, but maybe some of you out there can help participate in this. And even if you can't, somebody will. And somebody's going to be sitting in some really bougie seats. Bougie, as they say, as the young people say today, right? But anyway, WVU Fan 13 says Indiana record currently 17-9 and 8-7 with games against Purdue, number 7 Purdue, home against Northwestern, home against number 15 Michigan State, home against Minnesota, and at Ohio State. Wouldn't it be something if West Virginia and Indiana ended up playing a play-in game in the NCAA tournament? Think about that one. Kenny Evans says Ren does great for what he's gone through. Hope he stays around. I agree. And Kenny Evans says Couz is buying premium seating for his members. Wow. Man, I wish. It'd be awesome, wouldn't it? You know, have you guys noticed, speaking of Ren, have you know he hasn't been seen, Ren used to be very out and about, so to speak. You've seen him on a lot of podcasts. Heck, he's been on my show a couple times. He kind of made the rounds, right? You'd see him doing interviews and all kinds of stuff, press conferences. Ever since he did that end of season or that state of the program or whatever press conference he did, I think it was at the end of football season, maybe? I can't remember when he did it, but nonetheless, we really haven't heard anything from him since. And I actually think that's a good thing. I think he's now been able to focus. He's not having to do a coaching search. He's able to focus on raising money, bringing in revenue, picking up the phone and calling Kenny Kendrick and trying to get him back into donating more than he has been or whatever. He's been able to do those things again. He's been able to work with Golden Blue Enterprises to try to figure out ways to raise money. All these things that he needs to do, that's stuff that he can do behind the scenes, and I think he's been hard at work doing all that stuff. And maybe, just maybe, he's been able to get a little bit of his life back in the process, right? Which is always a good thing. Luke Armercall says, poor guy had so many coaching searches. Let bro sleep. That's right, Luke. Absolutely, brother. Let the guy sleep, man. Let him rest a little bit. All right. Well, I see people are starting to hop off, and I'm pretty much done with all I have to say. I ask again that you please hit that thumbs up button. I want to tell you guys, when I'm doing on my pre-recorded shows, at the bottom, there's a section you can scroll over. You see the comments. You can see where you hype and all that. You can scroll over 2 or 3 times, and you'll see there might be a few quizzes for you to answer. YouTube is now giving the option to add quizzes into our videos. They don't interrupt the video. They're actually at the bottom in the same area where you scroll through and find comments and things. So be on the lookout for those quizzes next time. Maybe you can answer a few quiz questions, test your knowledge of West Virginia sports or whatever the video happens to be about. Sometimes the answer's in the video, sometimes it's not. That's just a cool new feature that YouTube is now using. And also, if you take advantage of that, it should help me out. Usually anytime YouTube adds a new feature like that, they will reward the channels who are taking advantage of them. So it should help that algorithm. So if you see a quiz at the bottom of the video, I ask that you please answer the quiz and help a brother out, okay? I want to thank you for tuning into this live show. If you're watching on the replay or live, either one, be sure to hit that thumbs up button before you head out. Be sure to comment below. Be sure to share this with your family and friends. I appreciate you tuning into this episode, this live episode. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf. God bless you, and Q Country Roads.